Billionaire pretends to sleep to test his janitor's son. What the son did next froze him. The billionaire lay perfectly still on the leather couch in his private office, his breathing slow, his eyes closed, his chest rising and falling as if sleep had finally claimed him. Outside the glass walls, the city glittered like a kingdom built on ambition and power, a kingdom he ruled. No one knew that behind the calm mask of rest, his mind was wide awake, watching, listening, waiting. This was not an accident. This was a test. And he had no idea that what he was about to witness would crack open a part of his heart he had sealed shut for decades. Before the story unfolds any further, take a moment right now. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet power of doing the right thing when no one is watching, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel. Your support keeps stories like this alive. The billionaire's name was Harlan Voss, a man known across continents for his ruthless intelligence and impossible standards. He had grown up poor, clawed his way to the top, and somewhere along that climb, he had learned to trust no one. People, in his experience, were loyal only when it benefited them. Smiles were masks, good deeds were performances. He believed character only revealed itself when power was absent and temptation was present. That belief was the reason he lay there pretending to sleep. Every evening after the executives left and the halls grew quiet, the cleaning crew arrived. Among them was an older janitor named Matteo, a thin man with tired eyes and gentle hands. Matteo had worked in the building for years, invisible to most, respected by none. What Harlan knew, because he made it his business to know everything, was that Matteo sometimes brought his teenage son along after school. The boy would sit quietly in the corner, doing homework, while his father worked overtime to cover medical bills for Matteo's wife. The son's name was Eli. Harlan had noticed Eli weeks ago through security footage. The boy never touched anything that wasn't his, never wandered, never complained. Something about that stillness intrigued Harlan. He had seen grown men with million-dollar salaries show less discipline. So tonight, he decided to watch more closely. The office lights were dimmed, the city hummed below. Matteo entered with his cart, unaware of the test unfolding inches away. Eli followed, backpack slung over one shoulder, eyes heavy from a long school day. They believed the billionaire was asleep, and that belief changed everything. As Matteo began cleaning the far side of the office, Eli settled near the desk. The silence was thick, broken only by the soft roll of wheels and distant traffic. Harlan could feel the tension in his own chest. He expected something small, maybe harmless curiosity, a glance at the desk, a touch of something expensive. That was how these tests usually ended. Quiet disappointment, followed by confirmation of his worldview. But what happened next did not follow his expectations. Eli noticed the billionaire lying there. He froze for a moment, studying the man whose name was etched into buildings and news headlines. There was no awe in his eyes, only concern. The boy slowly stood and walked closer, careful, respectful. He noticed the blanket slipping from Harlan's shoulder, the air conditioner blowing colder than necessary. Eli hesitated, then gently adjusted the blanket, tucking it around the sleeping figure with a tenderness that belonged to someone who had spent years caring for others. Harlan felt it, the warmth, the careful touch. His breath almost faltered. Eli then noticed the open laptop on the desk, financial graphs glowing faintly. Instead of looking closer, instead of touching anything, he quietly turned the screen away so the light wouldn't disturb the sleeper. Then he picked up a pen that had rolled onto the floor and placed it back where it belonged. Each movement was deliberate, thoughtful, as if the office itself were fragile. As the minutes passed, Matteo moved closer, unaware of his son's small acts of kindness. Eli returned to his corner, but instead of opening his notebook, he watched the billionaire. His eyes carried a weight no teenager should bear. Harlan sensed it without seeing it. Time stretched. Harlan remained still, but inside something began to shift. This was not performance. There was no audience, no reward, just a boy choosing to care when he thought no one would ever know. Then came the moment that froze Harlan completely. Mateo's cart accidentally bumped into a small side table, knocking over a glass frame. It shattered quietly but sharply. Mateo rushed forward, panic flooding his face. The frame held a photo of Harlan as a young man standing beside his mother, taken decades ago before wealth hardened his features. Mateo dropped to his knees, apologizing silently, his hands shaking as he tried to gather the pieces. Eli rushed over too, but instead of panicking, he carefully gathered the broken glass, wrapping it in his jacket to protect his father's hands. Then he picked up the photo, now cracked but intact, and stared at it for a long moment. What Eli did next stopped Harlan's breath. The boy gently placed the photo back on the table, aligning the pieces as best he could, then bowed his head. His lips moved silently, and Harlan realized the boy was praying, not for himself, not even for his father, but for the man on the couch, for the billionaire who, in Eli's eyes, was just another tired human who had fallen asleep working too hard. Harlan felt something hot press behind his eyes. He had not been prayed for in years. Not sincerely, not without expectation. Eli then turned to his father, placing a hand on Mateo's shoulder, steadying him, reassuring him without words. He helped clean every shard, ensuring nothing dangerous remained. When they finished, Eli quietly took out a notebook and began writing. Not homework, a letter. Harlan could not see the words, but he felt the intention. When Eli finished, he folded the paper neatly and placed it beside the photo. Then he looked once more at the sleeping man, his expression calm, respectful, and walked away. When the office was empty, Harlan finally moved. His body felt heavier than before. He sat up slowly, his chest tight, his hands trembling slightly. He reached for the folded paper. Inside was a note written in uneven handwriting. It spoke of gratitude. Gratitude for a building that provided work, gratitude for lights that stayed on, gratitude for a man who, even if he didn't know it, helped families survive. Eli wrote that his father worked very hard and that one day he hoped to do the same, not to be rich but to be good. He apologized for the broken frame and promised they would pay for it, even if it took time. Harlan stared at the note until the city lights blurred. That night, something irreversible happened. Over the following weeks, Harlan changed in ways his staff could not explain. Mateo was moved to a daytime position with better pay. Eli received a scholarship offer he never applied for. Medical bills vanished, but Harlan did not stop there. He started spending time in places he once ignored. He listened more, he watched more. And every time he felt his old cynicism return, he remembered a boy adjusting a blanket in the dark. The real challenge, however, was not generosity. It was vulnerability. Harlan began questioning the armor he had built around himself. Success had taught him how to win, but not how to feel. Eli's quiet kindness forced him to confront the emptiness behind his wealth. One evening, months later, Harlan sat alone in his office again, wide awake this time. The cracked photo frame had been replaced, but the old one sat in a drawer, untouched. The note was framed on his desk. He realized that the boy had given him something no business deal ever had. Proof that goodness still existed without cameras, without applause. As the story nears its end, if this journey has touched you even a little, if it reminded you that small acts of kindness can shake even the coldest hearts, please take a second to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your engagement helps these stories reach others who need them. And before the final moments fade, here is a special request. Please comment below with one word that describes how this story made you feel. Your words matter more than you know. Harlan Voss never pretended to sleep again. He learned that the greatest tests are not the ones we design for others, but the ones life places quietly in front of us. A billionaire sought proof of honesty and found humanity instead. And somewhere in the city, a janitor's son went on with his life, unaware that his simple goodness had transformed a man who had everything, yet was missing the one thing that truly mattered. If this story reached your heart, stay with us. Because sometimes the smallest light is enough to wake even the deepest sleeper.